you, Elizabeth. I'm going to declare this meeting open. And I'd like to welcome Aline Laflamme, our Indigenous Public Representative, for a blessing and an opening to our proceedings today. Aline.
Masi Cho. Well, this is my final day with CNA, and we're very honored to have had 2 terms here. And like to start with an opening prayer and invite all of you to pray in your own way or join me. Or if prayer is not for you, just hold a good intention. Masi notsi kumuktahan masi. Masi dasi masi dani masi dani. Ma apa notsi that gonazu say. Grandmothers and grandfathers, great spirit, great mystery of life and good creator of all things in this universe where we are, we thank you that we woke up with this gift of life again, one more day. Help us to use this gift and to enjoy this gift, to make the best use of it that we can, to lift up our relatives, lift up ourselves, and lift up all of creation. I ask for a good blessing on each one in this meeting now, that each one of us would put our minds, our hearts, our spirits together in a good way to continue and support the health and well-being of all our relatives across Canada. Bless all the dear ones that have been giving their time, and bless the new ones coming in. We give thanks for this air that we breathe that's given us our lives. We give thanks. We have water. Many of our relatives don't. We give thanks for those of us that have clean water. Masi, what a blessing. Help us to make sure all our relatives have clean water. We give thanks for the beautiful grandfather sun shining down on us. Some a little bit too much, too hot, but we give thanks that we have a grandfather sun giving us light so we could see where we're going. Help us to use the light to see ourselves and one another and see what needs to be done and do it in a good way. We give thanks for this beautiful Mother Earth, for feeding us today, for clothing us, for sheltering us, and giving us everything that we need, including all our dear relatives. Help us to recognize our relatives, our 4-legged kind relatives, our winged ones, the ones that live in the water, the ones that crawl in and on the earth. All the rooted nations are our relatives, the mineral nations, and then all our 2-legged relatives. We pray for all our relatives. We pray for us to open our eyes and recognize our relatives. This is so urgent right now. We see our Black brothers and sisters terrorized with nooses and hangings and lynchings in the United States. We pray for everyone to rise up in a good way, put our hands and our hearts together and stop this hatred, stop this failure to recognize we are all children of this Mother Earth. Help us to see that the best way we can. We ask a blessing for each territory where we are. I'm here in the Squamish Nation, the Musqueam Nation, the Tsleil-Waututh Nation in their traditional territories that are unceded. I thank my relatives that I can walk around here and live my life in their territories, and a blessing all across this country. Help us and guide us through these good things that we have to do this day. Masi Cho, all my relations. Masi.
Thank you so much, Aline, for that beautiful blessing and opening and for those good words to set us on a good path. Aline, you are a beautiful person, and I want to thank you from all of us for what you have brought to our board, to our organization, and to us as people. Thank you so much for being with us. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. I am Claire Betker. I am the Canadian Nurses Association President and your presiding officer for today's meeting of members. It is my pleasure to declare the Canadian Nurses Association 2020 meeting of members officially open. And typically at this point, as the chair, I would rap the gavel, and you'll just have to imagine that sound. You can see in the picture on your screen the traditional CNA gavel. This online meeting place reaches across Turtle Island, the sacred land for which thousands of years has been and continues to be home to many Indigenous people with whom we are honored to work in relationship with. I'd like to acknowledge the land from which I'm providing and presiding today. I am in Treaty 1 territory in Winnipeg, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Oji-Cree, the Dakota, and the Dene people, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. I'm delighted to welcome everyone today virtually. Thank you so much for joining us. And you can use the chat box at the bottom of your screen to introduce yourselves and where you're from. We'd also like to invite you to feel free to share photos, to share news from the meeting on social media, and you can see the hashtags that we have there. So hashtag CNA 2020, hashtag AIIC 2020, hashtag myCNA, or hashtag mon AIIC. So tweet away, please. For today's proceedings, please note that both French and English may be spoken throughout the meeting. We have interpreters online with us, and you can access these services through the interpretation button at the bottom toolbar of your Zoom screen. The button looks like a globe icon, and Elizabeth has a slide there for you to see. Click on the globe and you will select the English channel regardless of whether you wish to hear French or English. This is the channel where the interpreters will be speaking. When you are listening, you can select the option of mute original audio to hear only the translator speaking, and you can turn this on and off as it suits you. What I do is when someone is speaking French, I go to the English channel and then I can hear the English translation. Throughout the meeting, we ask that you remain on mute to minimize interruptions unless you're invited to speak. And Sally Thorne, I just saw her in the chat box say that she was hoping that tech gods are with us, and so do I, as this is our very first time in a virtual space. So CNA is in its 112th year, amazing. And that means that we have a long history of bringing our members together. But as you know, due to current public health concerns, we're not able to be together in person. However, I really appreciate this opportunity to still be able to report back to you, our most valuable members. Throughout the coronavirus pandemic, we are witnessing the critical role of nurses and that they have played and continue to play in COVID-19. And I really want to take a moment right now to thank you for this dedication. I'd also like to ask you to join me in sending our condolences to the families and friends of all the nurses and other healthcare workers around the world who have lost their lives in this year in the COVID-19 pandemic. Here at home, not related to COVID-19, we lost two of our great nurse leaders and former CNA presidents this year. Dr. Joan Gilchrist was president from 1976 to 1978, and that's actually when I was graduating from nursing, and I remember Dr. Gilchrist. Joan's background in nursing education and nursing administration were decided assets in drawing attention to the need for nursing research to study nursing's contribution to patient safety and quality care. Joan's understanding that nursing education, practice, research, and policy were inextricably linked, and that all of those aspects needed to be addressed concurrently, in effect, created the blueprint for how to move forward the nursing profession today. We also lost Dr. Shirley Stinson. She was another towering figure in Canadian nursing. In a career of achievements, honors, and awards, she was Canada's first female senior national health scientist. Her pioneering efforts to establish nursing research as a respected field of study led to one of the first Master of Nursing programs in Canada and to the nation's first doctoral degree in nursing, both at the University of Alberta. She was CNA President from 1980 to 1982, and we mourn the loss of those tremendous leaders. Now it's my privilege to introduce to you the CNA Board of Directors, and I am proud of their dedication to CNA, and I am so grateful for their individual and collective vision, their deep thought, their spirited debate, and the hard work that they have contributed to strengthen the Canadian Nurses Association. Tim Guest, President-elect, and there's Tim, from Nova Scotia, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Laura Lee Gibson and Trina Clausen, who so ably have represented the Canadian Network of Nursing Specialties. Thank you, Laura Lee and Trina. Aline Laflamme, who you met earlier, the Indigenous public representative, and James Lowe from the Yukon, our public representative. Thank you both for your contributions to CNA. And representing the 10 jurisdictions, jurisdictional member class, and the 2 independent members from Ontario and Quebec, representing the family of nursing member class, are Maureen Cava, Ontario, Jennifer Dunsford, Manitoba, Danny Haicha, Alberta, Jacqueline Keith, British Columbia, Warren Cook, Saskatchewan, Robin Laird, Prince Edward Island, Jennifer Pierce, Northwest Territories and Nunavut, Sherry Roach from Nova Scotia, Christina Sim from the Yukon Territory, Natalie Stake-Doucet from Quebec, Maureen Wallace from New Brunswick, and Elaine Warren from Newfoundland and Labrador. It is my distinct pleasure now to introduce the Canadian Nurses Association's Chief Executive Officer, Michael Villeneuve. Over to you, Michael.
Thanks very much, Claire. And I think we missed Victoria Marchand in the list.
We did.
We skipped, the slide went past Claire. So I'll just say Victoria Marchand is the representative of the Canadian Nursing Students Association on the board. And we agreed we would interrupt each other when we have technical glitches and make it right. So I want to make sure Victoria is included. So thank you very much for the invitation to take part today, Claire and Tim and the board. I never resist an opportunity to tell the members and anyone else who will listen that this is a great privilege, this role, best job of my career. And despite the busyness and the tough days, it's just been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. So I'm delighted to be with you. I'm pleased to share with you the names and titles of our jurisdictional chief executive officers and executive directors who are my immediate counterparts. And while they're not all able to participate today, I would like to thank each of them. So they are Denise Bowen from the Registered Nurses Association of the Northwest Territories and Nunavut, Joy Peacock from the College and Association of Registered Nurses of Alberta, Lynn Power, College of Registered Nurses of Newfoundland and Labrador, Cindy Smith, Saskatchewan Registered Nurses Association, Mary Smith, no relation, I don't think, Association of Regulated Nurses of Manitoba, Michael Sandler, Nurses and Nurse Practitioners of British Columbia, Laurie James, the Nurses Association of New Brunswick, Sean Hopkins, the Yukon Registered Nurses Association, and Sheila Marchand-Short from the College of Registered Nurses of Prince Edward Island. You have been a great group of colleagues to work with, and I want to thank you very much for all the time and expertise that you've given to CNA. Back over to you, Madame President.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for pointing out my omission in not seeing and the slide with Victoria Marchand on there. And I just want to say Victoria has been an incredible representative of the Canadian Nursing Students Association at our board, and we really, really appreciate the voice of students at our board of directors. So thank you, Michael, and I'm also pleased to acknowledge the following individuals who are joining us today. Atul Kapoor, our procedural advisor and parliamentarian, and as smart as a whip human being, and we're really happy to have you with us here today, Atul. Megan Wallace, our legal counsel, and Megan, you've been at many of our meetings and we just so appreciate your legal counsel. Donna Dewar, our mighty Chief Operating Officer. Rochelle Brulette, CNA's Manager of Finance and Corporate Services. Josette Roussel, the Canadian Nurses Association Executive Advisor, who is also our official timekeeper today. And we also have a Chief Scrutineer for the meeting, and the Chief Scrutineer is responsible for confirming the results of each vote. So welcome to Lisa Little, a CNA member, a registered nurse, who is also on the board of the International Council of Nurses. Thank you to all of you for your support today. And also to Nada Hamoud, who without her, we just would be lost, and Elizabeth Morin for her technical support. So thank you to all CNA staff. Okay, so we have our roll call now. So will the Chief Executive Officer, Michael, please confirm quorum for today's meeting? Michael.
Thanks very much, Claire. Madame Présidente, le statut 25 précise le quorum fixé pour toute assemblée des membres correspond à une majorité des membres aptes à voter. In English, Madam President, Bylaw 25 states that the quorum at any meeting of members shall be a majority of the members entitled to vote at the meeting. So let me share them with you. Our 10 jurisdictional members carry 120 votes in total. There are 59 voting delegates with us today representing the jurisdictional members. The student members carry 5 votes, and there are 4 voting delegates present with us today. The specialty network members carry 10 votes, and there are 8 voting delegates present today. And finally, from the family of nursing members, which are Ontario and Quebec, they carry 5 votes, and there are 4 voting delegates present today. So in total, we have 75 voting delegates present, representing a total of 140 possible votes. I'm pleased to inform you, Madam President, that this meets the quorum requirement.
Thank you, Michael. So prior to the meeting, the voting delegates were sent a Canadian Nurses Association Meeting of Members kit by email. Those are the documents that we will be referring to throughout the meeting today. I'm going to now ask Tim Guest, President-elect, to explain the voting process and the equipment. So over to you, Tim.
Thank you, Claire. Only voting delegates can vote on motions before the Assembly. We require a voting delegate from one member to move a motion and a voting delegate from a different member to second each motion before it is debated. An example would be a jurisdictional member or voting delegate from British Columbia moving a motion and a jurisdictional member who's a voting delegate from Prince Edward Island seconds the motion. To move or second a motion, please click on the raise a hand icon. You can find this in the participants window in the toolbar at the bottom center of your screen. Within the participants window, go to the right-hand side and click the button labeled Raise Hand. Your digital hand is now raised. You will wait for the CNA Lead of Governance, Nada Hamoud, to acknowledge you and inform the President of your interest in speaking. The President will then invite you to speak. The Zoom host will unmute you, and there may be a slight pause while this is happening. The Lumi voting technology is set up with the exact number of votes to which each voting delegate is entitled. The chief scrutineer has confirmed the vote assignments of each of the delegates within the voting system. When the president calls for the vote, voting delegates will record their vote on the voting platform. For voting delegates who have more than one vote, you are still only able to vote once. All of your votes will go towards your one selection. You will have 30 seconds to enter your vote. Confirmation that your vote has been received will appear on the screen. If you wish to change your vote before the vote is closed, you can choose another selection. The last selection you make will be recorded as your final vote. If you wish to cancel your vote, press the cancel button. We will now do a test motion. So the test motion is that virtual meetings be named the next best thing since sliced bread. Madam President, will you please call the vote?
Would the voting delegates please record their vote on the Lumi platform?
Madam President, the count has indicated the vote has passed.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Now we're going to do another test. And there is a bit in the chat box where people are saying that they're having difficulty finding that platform and not showing up on Lumi. So Tim, I'm going to turn that back to you.
Okay, we will do thank you, Claire. We will do a second test to give individuals an opportunity if they did not have it work for them the first time. And the Lumi link is posted in the chat box for you. The second test motion is that the capital of Canada be moved from one major city to another each year. Madam President, will you please call the vote?
Would the voting delegates please record their vote on the Lumi platform?
Madam President, the count has indicated the vote has not passed.
Thank you. The motion is defeated. Okay, so we did say in our rehearsal that we could repeat the last motion if it was needed, and I'm still seeing some people in the chat box indicating they're having trouble. Do we need to repeat that last motion? Donna, Michael?
Sorry, Claire, I was unmuting myself. I'm just reading the comments. One of the issues is that some folks seem to have not picked up their, pardon me, password that they would have received when they registered.
Sorry, Mike.
Go ahead, Donna.
Voting delegates, you would have received an email from Nada Hamoud, and in that email you would have received the link plus your username and password. So you'll need to go to the whatever email you provided for your voting delegate information. You need to search that email box from an email from Nada, and Nada, perhaps you can jump in, and if somebody needs it, you can resend their email to them, and then all the information you need is right there. If you do not find one, I would also suggest you check your trash and spam to see if it's located there. But we did send out an email to each voting delegate individually with that information.
So remembering that not all of us are voting delegates. So if you are a voting delegate, you would have received that package. So while we're sorting that out, let's, Tim, let's do the next motion, or the same motion again, one more time as a trial.
Certainly, Claire. So we will, the motion will be up on the screen. And the last test motion is that the capital of Canada be moved from one major city to another each year. Madam President, will you please call the vote?
Thank you, Tim. Would the voting delegates please record their vote on the Lumi platform?
Madam President, the count has indicated the vote has not passed.
Thank you. The motion is defeated. Okay, and I'm going to ask people to continue to use the chat box if they have problems, and I'll get the staff to help us with that. I'm going to move on to the standing rules. Your annual meeting kit includes the standing rules for our meeting today. Let's review a few of the rules before we begin. As Tim explained earlier, the authorized speakers are the voting delegates representing CNA members, as are the members of the CNA Board of Directors. The chair shall call on authorized speakers in the order in which they indicate an interest in speaking. When you speak, you need to introduce yourself and your province or territory, and you can speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. The chair may, entirely at her discretion, allow a nurse or nursing student who is not an authorized speaker to speak, but only after all authorized speakers have concluded their remarks. If there are any procedural issues that are not addressed by the Act, the bylaws, or these standing rules, we will use Robert's Rules of Order newly revised. I now ask for a voting delegate to move the motion by reading the motion on the screen. Please click the raise a hand icon, so that's within the participant box at the bottom of your screen. And the person who raises their hand first, I'm going to wait for Nada to recognize or acknowledge you, and then I will ask you to speak. And I'm asking for a mover for the motion that's on the screen.
Madam President, Maureen Wallace has raised their hand first.
Maureen Wallace, please identify yourself and the member you represent. Please indicate you wish to move the motion by reading the motion on the screen. Maureen?
Yes, Maureen Wallace with the Nurses Association of New Brunswick. I so move, Madam Chair.
Can you read the motion, Maureen, please?
Certainly. I move that the document entitled Standing Rules for CNA Annual Meeting of Members 2020 set out the standing rules for this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. I now call for a voting delegate from a different member to second the motion. And if you can indicate that in the participants box by raising your hand, and Nada will recognize the person who raised their hand first.
Madam President, Lorelei Gibson has raised their hand first.
So noted. Lorelei Gibson has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? If there is, please raise your hand in the participants box and you will be called in the order received. There being no questions or discussion, would the voting delegates please record their vote for this motion on the Lumi platform? All member classes can vote on this motion.
Madam President, the count has indicated the vote has passed.
Thank you. The motion is carried. I'm now going to move to the nominations for elections, and I will ask again Tim Guest, the President-elect, who is also the chair and done an outstanding job of that chair of the Governance and Leadership Committee, to present the nominations for President-elect.
Thank you, Madam President. The ticket of nominations for the office of President-elect for 2020 to 2022 includes the following two candidates: Sylvain Brousseau and Cynthia Bryanton. The candidates are seen here on the screen. Over to you, Madam President.
Thank you, Tim. In accordance with Bylaw 38, additional nominations may be made by voting delegates at an annual meeting at which an election is to be held, provided such nomination is supported by the consent in writing via an email of the nominee. Are there nominations from the floor for the office of President-elect? If so, please click again the raise a hand icon first. Wait for Nada to acknowledge you, and then I will call upon you. So there being no more nominations, I declare the nomination for President-elect closed. And I want to offer my sincere thanks to Sylvain and to Cynthia for letting their name stand for office. Tim Guest will present the nominations, or will present the slate of nominations for the 2020-2022 Board of Directors. Tim.
Thank you, Madam President. First, we have 6 board members presently in the middle of a 2019 to 2021 term. They are Maureen Cava, Ontario, Jacqueline Keith, British Columbia, Trina Clausen, Network Representative, Warren Cook, Saskatchewan, Natalie Staquet-Doucet, Quebec, and Maureen Wallace, New Brunswick. During Saturday's Board of Directors meeting, we appointed the 2 public representative directors. They are Morgan Wood and John Sillaboy as the Indigenous Public Representative. In compliance with board policy, the slate of nominations for board directors was sent to voting delegates. In your meeting packages, you received each candidate's statement of philosophy, platform statement, and photo. The Governance and Leadership Committee is pleased to present the following nominations for Board of Directors for 2020 to 2022. In the jurisdictional class candidates, they are Laura Lee Fair, Manitoba, Valerie Hughes, Prince Edward Island, Nicole Letourneau, Alberta, Jennifer Pierce, Northwest Territories in Nunavut, Amaris Posnikoff, Yukon, Sherry Roach, Nova Scotia, and Elaine Warren, Newfoundland and Labrador. For the Student Association candidate, it is Courtney Blake, Canadian Nursing Students Association. And the nursing specialty class candidate is Katie Dilworth in the Canadian Network of Nursing Specialties. Madam President, this concludes my report.
Thank you, both to Tim as the chair of that committee and to the committee members. I will now ask if there are any nominations from the floor for the jurisdictional, student, or nursing specialty. If so, please click, as I said before, the raise a hand icon to indicate your interest to speak. Wait for Nada to acknowledge you, and then I'll call upon you. Okay, seeing no more nominations, I declare the nominations closed. So with the nominations now closed, we will proceed with the election of directors. I ask for a jurisdictional member, voting delegate, to move the motion by reading the motion on the screen that you see there, and a voting delegate from another jurisdictional member to second the motion. Okay, so a jurisdictional member voting delegate to move that motion, and then a voting delegate from another jurisdictional member to second it. Remember to click your raise a hand icon.
Madam President, Denny Haicha has raised their hand first.
Thank you. Denny, please identify yourself and the member you represent. Please indicate you wish to move the motion by reading the motion on the screen.
Thank you, Madam President. It's Denny Haicha, Jurisdictional Representative for Alberta. I move that the following jurisdictional candidates be elected for the term 2020 to 2022. This includes Laura Lee Fair from Manitoba, Valerie Hughes, Prince Edward Island, Nicole Letourneau, Alberta, Jennifer Pierce, Northwest Territories and Nunavut, Amiris Pazikov, Yukon, Sherry K. Roach from Nova Scotia, and Julian Warren from Newfoundland and Labrador.
Thank you, Denny. I now call for a voting delegate from a different jurisdictional member to second the motion.
Madam President, Nita Dick has raised their hand first.
So noted. Nita Dick has seconded the motion. And it's been read that the following jurisdictional candidates be elected for the term 2020 to 2022. For this motion, only delegates representing jurisdictional members can vote. If you're not a jurisdictional member and you vote mistakenly, do not worry, it will not count towards the vote. Please wait for the screen and my signal. You have 30 seconds on the Lumi platform. Please vote for the slate of directors or vote against the slate of directors.
Madam Chair, the count has indicated the vote has passed.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Motion number 3. I ask for a voting delegate from the students class to move the motion by reading the motion on the screen. Because there is only one student member, a seconder is not required. So to move the motion, remember to click the raise a hand icon and Nada will recognize you.
Madam President, Casey Paladwar has raised their hand first.
Thank you. Casey, please identify yourself and the member you represent. Please indicate you wish to move the motion by reading the motion on the screen.
Hi, Cassie Paladwar.
Cassie.
I represent the Student Association, and I move that Courtney Blake be elected the Student Director for the term 2020 to 2021.
Thank you, Cassie. And no seconder is required. So only student member class voting delegates are eligible to vote for this motion. Please wait for the screen and my signal. You will have 30 seconds to vote for either for or against the motion on the Lumi platform. Go ahead.
Madam President, the count has indicated the vote has passed.
Thank you. The motion is carried. I now ask for a voting delegate for the nursing specialty class to move the motion by reading the motion on the screen. Again, because there is only one member in the nursing specialty class, a seconder is not required. Remember to click the raise your hand icon and Nada will recognize you.
Madam President, Laura Gibson has raised their hand first.
Thank you. Laura Lee, please identify yourself and the member you represent, and please indicate you wish to move the motion by reading the motion on the screen.
Good morning, I'm Laura Lee Gibson. I represent the Canadian Network of Nursing Specialties. I move that Katie Dilworth be elected to the Nursing Specialty Director for the term 2020 to 2022.
Thank you, Laura. Only nursing specialty class voting delegates are eligible to vote. Please wait for the screen and my signal. You will have 30 seconds to vote. Please go ahead.
Madam Chair, the count has indicated the vote has passed.
Thank you. The motion is carried. That concludes the voting of directors. A sincere thank you to all of the candidates for putting your names forward and for standing for election to our Board of Directors. Congratulations, and we look forward to welcoming you to the Board of Directors. I'm now pleased to invite Tim Guest, Chair of the Finance and Audit Committee, to highlight the 2019 financial information done in March. This was provided in March in our annual report. So over to you, Tim.
Thank you, Claire. It is my pleasure to present the financial information included in the 2019 annual report. The Statement of Revenue and Expenses provides a summary of the association's operation during the fiscal year ending in December of 2019. CNA completed 2019 with a total revenue of $10,838,324 and total expenses of $9,344,046. The Statement of Net Assets reflects CNA's financial position at December 31st, 2019, which is the difference between assets net of liabilities. On December 31st, 2019, CNA's net assets were $13,600,070. The complete audited financial statements for 2019 are available on our website in both official languages. This completes the financial overview, Madam President. CNA staff and I will be pleased to respond to any questions.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you to yourself as Chair of the Finance and Audit Committee, and to the members of Finance and Audit Committee, and to the staff at CNA. Are there any questions? You can raise your hand again by using the participants raise your hand box. Okay, seeing no questions, we will move on now to the appointment of the auditors. In accordance with the Canada Not-for-Profit Corporations Act, an auditor or auditors shall be appointed at each annual meeting of the Canadian Nurses Association. The CNA Board of Directors recommends that the firm Baker Tilly Ottawa, LLP, be appointed as auditors for the Canadian Nurses Association for 2020. I ask a voting delegate to move the motion by reading the motion on the screen. Again, please use the raise a hand icon and wait for Nada to acknowledge you, and then I'll call upon you.
Madam President, Maureen Cava has raised their hand first.
Thank you. Maureen Cava, please identify yourself and the member you represent. And please indicate you wish to move the motion by reading the motion on the screen.
Hello, it's Maureen Cava from Ontario, and I move that the firm of Baker Tilly Ottawa LLP be appointed auditors for the Canadian Nurses Association for the 2020 fiscal year.
Thank you. I now call for a voting delegate from a different member to second the motion. Again, use that raise your hand icon and Nada will recognize you.
Madam President, no hands appear to be raised.
Okay, do I have a seconder for this motion, please?
Madam President, Laura Gibson has raised their hand first.
Thank you, Laura Lee has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Again, use your raise the hand and I will recognize you. Okay. So should we clear there seems that people are saying their hand was raised. I think it was raised to second.
Doris Grinspan has her hand up.
Doris, do you want to speak to this motion?
So first, good wishes to everybody. Just a question, Claire, how often does CNA, what's the practice in terms of doing an RFP for auditor?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I'm going to let Michael answer that question. Thank you for the question, Doris.
Thank you.
Claire, do you want me to ask Tim in his role? I'm happy to answer it.
Certainly, Tim can answer it. Absolutely. Go ahead, Tim.
Doris, thank you for the question. CNA issues an RFP for auditing services every 5 years. And this would be the last year of that process, and it is our intention to issue an RFP for 2021.
Thank you, Tim.
Are there any further questions? Okay, so would the voting delegates please record their vote for this motion on the Lumi platform? Go ahead, please. And all member classes can vote for this motion.
Madam Chair, the count has indicated the vote has passed.
Thank you. The motion is carried. So now it is time for the elections of the office of President-elect. And I remember this day 4 years ago. CNA hosted a Meet the Candidates session on June the 17th for voting delegates to hear from the 2 nurses who are running for this volunteer leadership position. The candidates, as you heard earlier, are Sylvain Brousseau and Cynthia Bryaton. And it takes dedication and courage to let your name stand for election. And I want to commend both of you and thank you for doing that. The voting process is the same as all votes taken so far today, in that the voting results will be instantly displayed on the screen. The candidates have been informed of the transparency of the vote. All voting delegates can vote for the office of President-elect. According to Bylaw 39, the candidate with the highest number of votes will be elected President-elect. When I call the vote, the Lumi voting platform will show the names of the candidates, Sylvain and Cynthia. Voting delegates will be asked to record their vote by selecting their preferred candidate. Confirmation that your vote has been received will appear on the screen. If you wish to change your vote, click on the other choice on your screen. The last selection you make will be recorded as your final vote. and you'll have 30 seconds to enter your vote. Once Lisa Little, the chief scrutineer, has checked the results, the screen will show the results of the vote, and the chair, myself, will announce the name of the candidate with the highest number of votes. Are there any questions? If there are questions about the process, you can raise your hand now, and Nada will recognize you. Okay, hearing none, I will ask that the slate of candidates be put up on the screen. And I now ask the voting delegates to vote for their candidate of choice for President-elect of the Canadian Nurses Association.
Madam Chair, I have verified the results of the vote.
Thank you for confirmation, Lisa, of the voting and that the results have been verified. So Sylvain Berceau, you have been elected CNA President-elect for the 2020-2022 term. Congratulations. And thank you so much to Cynthia for letting your name stand. So to Sylvain Berceau, who agreed to stand for the office of President-elect, to Cynthia Bryaton, who agreed to stand for the office of President-elect. We really, really applaud your dedication to CNA and to the nursing profession. You have demonstrated a strong interest and desire to become involved in shaping your association and your profession's future, and we thank you for your time and your commitment. And we wish you all the very best in your current and future endeavors. So I'm now going to ask Tim Guest to induct CNA's new president-elect. So over to you, Tim.
Thank you, Claire. On behalf of everyone assembled here today and all of CNA's members across the country, I congratulate Sylvain Berceau on having been elected as president-elect for 2020-2022. Sylvain Berceau, in accordance with the bylaws, the president-elect is a member of the board of directors and shares in the duties incumbent upon that office and other duties as the board of directors may define. You are now charged with the full responsibilities of the office to which you have been elected. Congratulations. Now, Claire, over to you to deliver your presidential farewell address.
Thank you, Tim. And I just think we should just do a clap. If we were in the room, we would be clapping both Cynthia and Sylvain right now. Thank you so much to both of you for standing today. Okay, so good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are in this absolutely beautiful country of ours. I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I want to begin by acknowledging the land from which I'm speaking. As I said earlier, I'm in Treaty 1 territory, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Oji-Cree, the Dakota, and the Dene people, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. I respectfully acknowledge that we all live and work in traditional lands of the many Indigenous nations of Canada, and I honor and am grateful for the ancestry, the heritage, and gifts of the Indigenous people. I'm proud to be a registered nurse in Manitoba for 43 years. I am a CNA certified community health nurse. Throughout my career, I have worked in small rural communities, large urban centers, and at a regional, provincial, and national level in all 5 domains of nursing: practice, administration, research, education, and policy. I am a wife of 45 years, the mother of 5 adult children. I'm also grandmother to 2 beautiful boys and 1 gorgeous baby girl. I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and while I'm the 48th president of the Canadian Nurses Association, I am just the 3rd to be elected from Manitoba. I have been blessed with a rich and diverse nursing career. Nursing has been an excellent choice. I've titled what I want to say today as a journey of gratitude. Gratitude means thanks and appreciation, and it comes from the Latin word gratus, which means thankful, pleasing. When you feel gratitude, you are pleased by what someone did for you, and you're also pleased by the results. Gratitude makes sense of our past, it brings peace for today, and it creates a vision for tomorrow. Those are the words of Melody Beattie. So I'm going to start with some thank yous. First, I would like to acknowledge and thank the Community Health Nurses of Canada and the Association of Regulated Nurses of Manitoba for their trust and confidence in me, as it was through their nominations in the fall of 2015 that this journey began. I want to thank all of you who are here today for being with us. I ask you to continue to show up in whatever way you can and to stay fully engaged in your profession, nursing, and to be involved in professional nursing associations as one way of being engaged. Professional nursing associations are an essential component, a pillar in fact, of our profession. I want to thank all of the nurses, the thousands of nurses actually, that I had the opportunity and privilege to speak with, to work with, and get to know in even a small way over the last 2 years. To the Board of Directors, to the new members, congratulations. Thank you for stepping up and embracing this opportunity. To those like me who are outgoing today, I salute you. And I thank you for all the hard work we have done together, for our collective actions and our accomplishments, especially through the past few months with COVID-19. To all the Board of Directors members with whom I've had the privilege of serving over the last 8 out of 10 years, thank you for sharing your time, your knowledge, your critical thinking, your passion and commitment to nursing, and thanks for the fun we had together. Tim Guest, I could not have asked for or expected a stronger partner and supporter as president-elect. As you know, in a few minutes, I will proudly pass the chain of office to you. You are going to be an awesome president, and please remember that I'm there cheering you on, always. Tim's experience, his strategic leadership, and his practical boots on the ground approach will support and lead CNA in the transition and transformation that is underway. You are the right leader, Tim, for this time. Barb Shelley and the immediate past president provided me with an excellent list of the top 100 do's as president. It was very helpful, and I'll share those with you. Michael Villeneuve, CEO of CNA, thank you for being an amazing nurse, an amazing human being. And thank you for your vision and leadership. To Donna Dewar, COO, and all the team at CNA. There are not words to express my appreciation of you for your knowledge and skill, your good work, the support, the attention to detail, your patience, and your love that you have given to me, especially in the past 2 years. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. To my employer, St. FX University, and the outstanding team at the National Collaborating Center for Determinants of Health, thank you for supporting me. And finally, to my family, your interest, love, and belief in me has been invaluable. Thank you. To our 2 daughters, Kate Hodgson and Stephanie Betker, that have chosen nursing as their profession, a special thank you to you for challenging me, for talking nursing with me, for traveling with me, and just for supporting me. But I'd like now to point you to the 2019 year in review, where you can find a nice summary of our key accomplishments and financial status. But I'd like to highlight a couple of them right now. In June 2019, 1 year ago, CNA joined the Global Nursing Now campaign. Nursing Now is collaborating with the World Health Organization and the International Council of Nurses to raise the status and profile of nursing and midwifery across the globe. In Canada, there are 3 pillars of that campaign: an Indigenous pillar co-led by the Canadian Indigenous Nurses Association and Indigenous Services Canada, a Chief Nursing Officer pillar ably led by the International Council of Nurses, and a Nursing Leadership pillar led by CNA. The goal of that pillar was to establish a comprehensive pan-Canadian hub of leadership development to support all regulated nurses to lead, advocate, and innovate. This goal was met when the Canadian Academy of Nursing was launched in 2019. The Academy is the first pan-Canadian organization dedicated to identifying, educating, supporting, and celebrating nursing leadership and administration across all regulated categories of nurses and all domains of practice. Membership in that academy continues to grow, and the first round of selection of fellows is underway. As a proud member and a fellow of the Academy, I look forward to participating and witnessing the impact on nursing leadership in the future. The International Council of Nurses 2019 Congress was held in Singapore in June of 2019. An impressive gathering of 5,000 nurses from 140 countries from around the world. I had the distinct privilege of attending, and I was struck by the global respect for Canadian nurses and Canadian nursing. I was so proud to be in the audience when the official announcement was made that the 2023 ICN Congress will be held in Canada in Montreal. Thanks to the hard work and skill of CNA's CEO Mike Villeneuve and his team, there will be an incredible opportunity to attend and participate in a top-notch global conference right here in Canada. And Sylvain, you will be the president as we welcome the world. During 2019, we continued to welcome licensed practical nurses, or registered practical nurses, as they're called in Ontario, and registered psychiatric nurses as CNA members. The expansion of our membership is a result of the milestone vote 2 years ago at our 2018 annual meeting and the extensive work to adapt our membership processes so nurses in all provinces and territories and in all categories could join CNA. To ensure an inclusive organization, a rebranding and a governance review was required. A brand is more than the logo of an organization. An effective brand must be grounded in values. In other words, in what we collectively, all of us, believe is important. An organization's brand reflects how it is seen through the eyes of others. Thus, the Canadian Nurses Association brand must express the unique and meaningful qualities of CNA to future and current members, to our partners, and to the public. It is the foundation of how we communicate those qualities effectively and consistently. So we needed to get it right, to be as close as we could to getting it right. And the only way to do that was to engage and to dialogue with current and future members. And so as a first step, CNA Board of Directors led a series of close to 50 engagement and dialogue sessions across Canada. Tim will highlight what we heard in more detail, but have no doubt that we heard resoundingly that a national professional nursing association is needed now more than ever to unify the profession, to support excellence in practice, to speak to the value and contribution of nursing, and to advocate for an effective, sustainable health system. An association that connects us globally, as well as across Canada, across the domains and categories of nurses and the diverse practice settings. One that provides a platform to elevate your voice and our profession for the health and well-being of all. I thank all of you who attended a session and shared your wisdom, advice, and feedback. Remember, CNA is your voice, your association. This year, and we're only halfway through it, we have a very important and unique opportunity to raise the profile and impact of nurses and nursing globally. As you know, to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Florence Nightingale's birth, the World Health Organization declared 2020 the International Year of the Nurse and the Midwife. And no one could have imagined when the declaration was made the significance of 2020 and the call that nurses around the world would so ably answer. In making this declaration, the World Health Organization Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, said, 2020 will be dedicated to highlighting the enormous sacrifices and contributions of nurses and midwives, and to ensure that we address the shortage of these vital professions. Very, very early in 2020, we began to witness and then experience the impact of the coronavirus on our country and on the world, on our work, our economy, and our lives. And the impact has been far-reaching and staggering. But regulated nurses played a critical role in Canada's response to the pandemic, a role to prevent and mitigate the spread of this disease, to identify and follow cases and contacts, to screen and test people, to care for those that became sick, as well as plan, lead, and manage the COVID-19 response and recovery in every community across Canada. To the nurses of Canada, on behalf of the Canadian Nurses Association, our officers, board of directors, and staff, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the knowledge, the science, the skill, the leadership, and the caring you brought and will continue to bring to this unprecedented situation every day in the many and varied settings and diverse communities in which you work. On May 12th, 2020, International Nurses Day, we marked the 200th anniversary of Florence Nightingale's birth. And while I acknowledge that she was not the only nursing leader or health pioneer of significance, I draw inspiration from her work and from her words. Nightingale inspired early professionalism across the domains of nursing. She expected and she fostered, through education and policy, excellence in nursing practice, patient safety, as well as the promotion and protection of the public's health. She advocated for health system reform as well as for societal change. She used her relationships with politicians, with the media, with other professionals, and the public to make significant social and structural changes. Nightingale sought to improve the conditions and thus the health of people, of families, communities, and populations, especially those disadvantaged. She believed in the responsibility, role, and value of professional nursing to tackle the complex issues of that time. And she wrote prolifically. In 1893, she wrote, "Health is not only to be well, but to be able to use well every power we have." She believed it would take 150 years before educated nurses would have the necessary impact on the health of the population and the health system. That time is now. And I believe we must use every power we have to answer the call that is there right in front of us. The Canadian Nurses Association is the national and global professional voice of Canadian nursing. Regulated nurses in Canada number close to 440,000 and are trusted and respected by the public and by other members of the interprofessional team. Nurses are the largest professional group within the health system in Canada, and we have an opportunity to lift our voices and take action to improve the health system, but also to address the social and structural determinants of health that are contributing to serious health and social inequities in Canada. Health inequities are health differences that are systematic across a population, result from social conditions in which people live and work, and are considered unfair, not just, when by reasonable means they could be avoided. We know that 75% of what determines our health actually lies outside the health system and includes income, education, social inclusion, food security, housing. Systematic and institutionalized racism is one of those determinants. Nurses have a significant role to play in identifying and addressing health and social inequities, as our work is as, and I'm quoting Dr. Adeline Falk-Raffel here, it's at the intersection where social attitudes, societal attitudes, government policies, and people's lives meet. At that intersection, there is created a moral imperative, not only to attend to the health needs of the public, but also, like Nightingale, to work to change the social conditions that contribute to poor health. CNA defines social justice as the fair distribution of society's benefits, responsibilities, and their consequences. It is a core value of our code of ethics. To act from this value requires us to work with communities to support them to gain as much control as possible over their lives and their health. While action at the political or policy levels is essential, social justice efforts and those to promote health equity are not limited to that. Witnessing social injustice downstream at the point of care creates a leadership opportunity to bear witness, to advocate for, and to work together toward health equity upstream. When elected in 2016, I used the words build, bridge, and believe. Build a strong, strategic, and unifying Canadian Nurses Association, a voice for nursing and for health. Bridge, that is about relationships that connect at local, provincial, territorial, pan-Canadian, and global levels. Relationships through which we establish common goals, identify solutions, and take action collectively. And believe. I believe we're all leaders, and we all are called to lead, wherever we are. It is with shared, distributed, and effective leadership that we will raise and address the complex issues, such as racism, mental health and addictions issues, that we're facing in our profession, in the health system, and in our organizations and associations, as well as in the communities and neighborhoods in which we live. Lifting and sustaining our collective voice and action, we will step into and we will create spaces and opportunities we need to advance nurses, nursing, and the health of people living in Canada. It is our social mandate, and it is a call to collective action. So it is the work of all of us together, shoulder to shoulder, as part of a social movement, and all of us as movement makers. So in conclusion, it is with deep gratitude that I thank you once again for the incredible privilege as serving as the 48th President of the Canadian Nurses Association. Thank you.
Join me, colleagues, please. Thank you very much, Claire. Can you hear, you folks hearing me okay? Sounds a little funny at this end all of a sudden. I'm Mike Villeneuve. I'm the CEO at the Canadian Nurses Association. I'm speaking to you today from my home, which is in a town called Mountain, which is the flattest place in all of Eastern Ontario, I'm quite sure, and is part of the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. And CNA House also sits in the same territory in a different part of Eastern Ontario. And as Aline says, we're grateful because we're free to live our lives. I love how she always puts it, to go about our lives in this beautiful space. So thank you for that. Claire, thanks for the wonderful words, inspiring as always. And I'm so sorry that COVID-19 has meant that Claire and Tim didn't really get their moment in the spotlight in quite the same way. For those who don't know, historically, the speeches are given at the convention. So there's a lot of people and you know, thanks is duly given. It's important to remember that these people are all volunteers. I work hard, but I get paid. They work hard and they don't get paid, right? So I could never begin to tell the members the amount of hours that Claire has put in. Nothing would have prepared me to understand the commitment, the time, to deliver success for CNA. I've learned that Claire, well, I know Claire for quite a long time. And in fact, Claire talked to me, you'd have to remind me of it, Claire, but it was sometime before you made this decision. I know you reached out to a number of people and you and I spoke about it, and I said immediately, yes, yeah, you should. Good choice. But I've learned more about her because, of course, we've been conjoined twins for much of the past 2 years, you know, and you know she's kind, that's clear and intelligent and deeply principled. She is so much better than I am at looking for the good. You know, when I'm saying, Claire says, now what would make them say that, Michael? And so Claire always principled, look at the situation, walk through it. And a very open-minded negotiator, even though she's firm. She learned very quickly that I am somewhat infirm and had to say to me, Michael, write that down, write that down. So the mantra for me from Claire's presidency is not gratitude, it's write that down. And I can't tell you how many times in Singapore I was not feeling well at all. That there's a period of last June and April and June, April to June, I wasn't feeling great. and I probably was taking in less than usual. But anyway, Claire made sure in Singapore, because we sat together at this, what looks like the United Nations, and I wrote it down because the boss was there, a little bit mum and a little bit boss. Claire, you often use the line, "Do not forget we're making history." That was Mary Agnes's line when CNA was founded, and we certainly had lots of those tough conversations. I mean, she was saying it because someone was complaining at that meeting that things were tough. And I appreciated that when things got tense, I could say, "Remember, Claire, we're in the messy middle," because we talked about change, and Claire would say, "You're right," and then she'd smile, and it sort of seemed to help get us through. Those of a certain age will remember Ralph and Alice Cramden from the Jackie Gleason show. And I say this because Claire and I also had a few Ralph and Alice Cramden moments when she would look at me and I knew she was thinking, "One of these days, buddy, right to the moon." So I think you can't help but have every emotion when you're so intensely thrown together in really tough circumstances, hard choices. I mean, it's nothing prepared me for the volume and pace of the decisions, and Claire was an unbelievable partner. So I know that the Nurses of Canada join me, Claire, in thanking you for the role you've played in redesigning CNA and setting us on a great new path forward. We're so proud. And after one more duty today, you can take some breaths and take a bit of a rest. But can I ask you all on the panel to unmute yourselves and join me in a cheer for Claire? Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Claire.
Yes,
Thanks, Claire.
amazing. Lots of love to you and many blessings and huge thanks.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Claire.
Huge thanks. You've been just really, you knocked it out of the park, my friend. Yeah, messy show.
Yeah, thank you.
That she did.
Yeah.
And we'll thank Claire again later too. There's I can hear baby cakes in your apartment there, Aline. So now, with having thanked Claire, we carry out a long-standing tradition of ours, which is to transfer the chain of office. And we're going to do this in a slightly different way for the obvious reason that we are not in a room together. You can see the beautiful chain and the medal in front of you. And typically in our meetings, it would be sometimes presidents wear it at every meeting and AGMs and board and so on. And sometimes it's just a symbolic piece, but all the little, it's hard to describe them, but all the bars that you see are the names of the presidents, and Claire's name has been added to it. We had thought about sending it by courier so that Tim's partner could pin it on him, but it's so valuable, and we just thought we were just scared about sending it that way. So we apologize, Tim, that you're not getting, having it pinned on you the way that it historically has been done. So I'm happy that you can at least get to see it, colleagues. It's safely stored at CNA House for when Tim and the board next visits, and we assume there will be some time when we will be together again. And so as we come to a historic moment every 2 years, I'd like to ask Claire, as the president, to transfer symbolically the chain of office to our new president, Tim Guest.
Oh, it is.
Take a breath. Breathe. Breathe.
Yeah,
Messy middle, Claire.
Yeah, I kind of did the ugly cry 2 years ago when my two beautiful daughters actually pinned, and it was a surprise to me to pin the chain of office on me in Ottawa. But Tim Guest, it is a tremendous pleasure for me to pin this chain of office on you virtually, and to give you a great big virtual hug. And as I said earlier, I could not have asked for a better president-elect and for a better friend during this time. So I welcome you, Tim, to address the members as the president of the Canadian Nurses Association. Tim.
Thank you, Claire. Colleagues and friends, I'd like to begin by acknowledging I'm in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Micmac. This territory is covered by the covenant chain of treaties, also known as the Peace and Friendship Treaties, that the Wabanaki people, those being the Micmac, the Maliseet, the Abenaki, the Passamaquoddy, the Penobscot, first signed with the British Crown starting in 1693. The Peace and Friendship Treaties did not deal with the surrender of land and resources, but recognized the tribe's title and established rules for the relationship between the parties. These rules still govern how we are to treat each other today. Everyone on this land is covered under these treaties, and it is for this reason it is said that we are all treaty people. Claire, that is a tough act to follow. It has been a true honor to serve as the president-elect during your term, and I'm very honored to call you a friend that I will have forever. My name is Tim Guest, and I'm a registered nurse. 29 years ago, I chose nursing for my career, and my commitment to the profession grows every day. I grew up in rural northern Alberta, and when I graduated from high school, I knew that I did not want to work in the oil field. I was one of a few, and I wanted nothing to do with being on the end of a shovel. I was not sure what I did want to do. I think I came from a typical rural northern family, where we thought options for employment were narrow and determined by gender. We did not have a lot, and I never felt there were huge expectations for me within my family circle. When expectations are limited, aspirations often are too. There are lessons in my background for all of us as we think about ourselves and the future of our chosen profession. Like many nurses, my initial path was not direct, and the choice of nursing was not my first. I wanted radio and television arts, but there was a 2-year wait list to get into the program, so I had a backup. I applied to nursing and to my first choice program. Even though I was apprehensive about being a man in nursing school, I think I chose nursing because of the personal childhood experience I had when I suffered a serious burn and spent the better part of a year in and out of the hospital. I can remember the nurses teaching me how to walk again by pushing a chair up and down the hallway. And then I can remember one specific nurse letting me follow her around. And I loved the opportunity when I got to press the button on the bed plan cleaner to make it go. I used to think as a 5-year-old that that was such a cool experience. I also worked for a year as a live-in personal care attendant for a man with quadriplegia and did long-term care prior to nursing school. These experiences and care relationships indicated to me that I was better suited to a career that involved caring for people, and I was not wrong. It was a lucky day for me when I got accepted into nursing school. I was the first man in my family to attend university and to choose a traditionally female-dominated profession. After graduation, my career started, as most did, as a clinical nurse in an acute care setting. Since then, nursing has taken me on a winding path of choices, with forks in the road, decisions to make, and hills to climb. Often, I didn't know what was around the bend or on the other side of the hill. But looking back, each experience has shaped me as a nurse, whether amazing, heart-wrenching, or terrifying. They have all been rewarding. There are patients, families, colleagues, leaders, and communities that I will never forget because they all taught me so much. I tell you this so you know that I have shared experiences with many Canadian nurses that I bring to this role as president of the Canadian Nurses Association. I have served in a number of leadership roles in Canadian organizations, such as a union, regulatory, and professional. This gives me a broad perspective. As CNA board member, as president-elect, and as a chief nurse executive in Nova Scotia, I have had many chances to dialogue with nurses of all categories and all practice settings. I think I have a pretty good idea what the concerns of Canadian nurses are and what hope they have from their jurisdictional and national leadership. The role of the Canadian Nurses Association has evolved over its history, starting with a primary focus on improving the quality of nursing education, moving into professional regulation, and quality improvement related to practice. CNA was one of the founders of the International Council of Nurses, the oldest global health professional association in the world. We have big shoulders to stand on and big challenges ahead. The past few years have been times of significant change for CNA, and we still have a lot of work to do to redesign the organization to meet the challenges for the 21st century healthcare and new professional structures that have impelled us to change. One of the changes that I am proudest of as a CNA member is the decision to include all categories of regulated nurses in our membership. For the past 15 years, I have served in senior health system leadership roles, both in Alberta and in Nova Scotia. I have been challenged through participating in and leading initiatives that expanded nursing practice so that we can improve patient care access and experience and acknowledge what nurses can and should be doing to support and improve the healthcare system. I have been part of implementing changes to models of patient care, of the role of nurse practitioners, and expanded roles for nurses in acute and community practice settings. This is a start, but there is much that a national nursing organization that is a member of ICN can do to advocate for and advance the role of regulated nursing personnel in healthcare. In this current context of a global pandemic, for example, nurses are still being underutilized and their intellectual capital wasted. In some cases, this waste has taken the form of inadequate protection because of insufficient access to personal protective equipment. In others, it has been lack of access to appropriate staffing and leadership. In some ways, the pandemic presents opportunities, and some wise person once said, no crisis should be wasted. CNA has recognized and responded to the significant problems that have been uncovered in how we provide long-term care to Canadians and opportunities to compare ourselves with other jurisdictions facing similar challenges. In this comparison, Canada falls short in meeting the needs of our seniors and medically fragile citizens. Our colleagues have been angered and embarrassed by the worst examples of incompetence and neglect in the long-term care sector, and CNA is responding. First, we listened to nurses working in these settings, and we issued a powerful call to action. We are having ongoing discussions with interested partners on how we can both influence and lead change in this sector. Nurses have the knowledge and expertise needed to inform these changes, and we have the mechanism for influence through CNA. When I think back to the National Expert Commission, I'm acutely aware there is still much to do to realize the changes recommended by those who gave their time and expertise to the consultation process. The public is ready for nurses to take on a larger role in the delivery of healthcare. CNA took the initiative to develop a framework for RNs to prescribe some pharmaceuticals within their scope of practice as a means of improving access to care. While some jurisdictions have moved forward with RN prescribing, many have not, and the approach has been less well coordinated and aligned than it should be. This is another opportunity for CNA to influence and to lead. At some point, mass immunizations to combat COVID-19 virus are likely to be required. Mobilizing Canada's nurses to ensure a rapid delivery system should include the ability to prescribe and to administer the vaccine. Nurses are the best opportunity to provide wide access to screening, testing, and contact tracing to control anticipated future outbreaks. In the words of Florence Nightingale, whom we are celebrating this 2020 World Health Organization Year of the Nurse and Midwife, reports are not self-executive. It is not enough for CNA to produce excellent, well-researched and supported reports and recommendations. Even with limited financial resources, we have the credibility and the potential to mobilize the nursing workforce to respond to the challenges through our networks and our members. In my campaign for president-elect, I included in my remarks the need for CNA and for nurses to take advantage of social and political upheaval and demonstrate our expertise and capability to participate and lead. The current pandemic and the resulting economic recession was not anticipated at that time, but the premise still holds. Dr. Francis Hughes, when executive director of the International Council of Nurses in 2016, called upon national nursing associations to be the conscience of their nations. We must more than ever take up that challenge and respond. We must do our part in speaking up for change both in the health system, in society in general, such as the devastating loss of life in the long-term care sector during the COVID pandemic, and the systematic racism we are seeing across the country, social inequity impacting our Indigenous communities and citizens, and equality for persons regardless of sex and gender expression. These are examples of movement-making situations Claire mentioned a moment ago. I've spoken about the need to unify our voice. It is vital for nursing, unions, regulators, professional associations, educators, researchers, policymakers, and healthcare leaders to come together to find common ground and speak with a unified voice on important issues, such as healthy public policy, system transformation, primary health care, and care for seniors and other vulnerable populations across all sectors. I've spoken about the need to live our potential. We have known for decades that nurses could play a more significant role and make a greater contribution in the Canadian healthcare system. There are other places where nurses work to improve access to care and health status in our communities. As Dr. Kathleen McMillan frequently states, we have the largest, best educated, and most experienced nursing workforce in Canadian history, and we stand ready to serve. I have spoken about the need for us to renew our relevance. The Canadian Nurses Association Board recently held approximately 50 discussion and engagement sessions covering every Canadian province and territory, both in person and using technology. During those sessions, we had the great privilege to hear the perspective of almost 1,000 nurses. You spoke passionately, you spoke with conviction, and we heard you. You told us you want a strong CNA, but you want a changed one. You want a CNA that speaks and advocates for you in a stronger and more powerful way. You want a CNA that welcomes, listens to, advocates for, and provides services to you, whether you are a licensed practical nurse, a registered practical nurse, a registered psychiatric nurse, a nurse practitioner, or a registered nurse. You want a CNA that welcomes you no matter where you live. You want a CNA that looks like you, respects diversity, and demonstrates leadership, acting on the recommendations from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You want a CNA that encourages you to share your views and makes it easy to participate and be involved. You want a CNA that is present and visible and not just in Ottawa. You want a CNA that supports local professional voices. You want a CNA that pulls nursing perspectives together in a common front on important nursing issues. And you want a CNA that takes your voice internationally to ICN. We have made progress in the creation of a new CNA brand. We are now looking at the membership model and governance structure. I am committed to continuing on the path that Barb Shellian and Claire Betker began, and I commit to you to demonstrate real progress in this work by the next AGM. As many of you may be aware, there have been many changes at the jurisdictional level, as many organizations no longer can have an advocacy mandate, and they shift their focus to solely regulatory functions. This is now the case in British Columbia, Manitoba, Ontario, and Nova Scotia, and this is likely to evolve in other member jurisdictions. There is a real risk for the profession and its advocacy and leadership functions in jurisdictions that do not have a professional association voice, even with strong union and regulatory organizations. These changes put the professional nursing association membership and activities at risk for nursing in these jurisdictions. These changes have necessitated CNA to look at its structure and membership model. Professional voices are needed locally, nationally, and internationally. And these voices need to provide the full range of perspectives to decision makers and policy advisors. These perspectives must always be based on best available evidence and nursing knowledge and expertise. Our organizations must work together to maximize our impact, minimize duplicated effort, and not waste valuable resources and be sustainable for the long term. During my term as your president, it is my goal for CNA to be what you asked of us. There will be difficult decisions required, and it will require hard work and collaboration on all of our parts. I know our CEO, Mike Villeneuve, and the CNA staff, your board, and our nursing partners have the capacity for this task. I plan to ignite the will to realize our collective professional goals through effective teamwork, partnership, and vision. We will continue to listen. We will involve you. We will keep you informed along the way, and we will alter our course when it is necessary. We are the largest healthcare professional group in the nation, a profession of over 440,000 strong. It does not make any public sense to waste this amazing resource when there are unmet needs for care and gaps in care that have been made visible in the context of a global pandemic. CNA will continue to consider all 440,000 nurses in our work. It is my hope that all of us will see that value and benefit of professional association membership and participation in achieving our aims. Please join me on this journey. We are stronger together.
You're applauding you, my friend, and we're standing.
Sure.
And we are standing in
Well
awe.
done.
Yes, well done, Tim. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know if somebody could follow from what you had to say, Claire, and because you knocked it out of the park, but I guess we got two.
There's two. There's two parks, Aline. There's more than two parks.
Two parks, that's for sure. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing, both of you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aline. And there's lots coming in here. Tim, that was unbelievable. Thank you so, so much. And you are going to be an awesome president. So my husband brought me Kleenex, so and a coffee. So before adjourning the meeting, just sort of as my very last, and Tim, read those comments as they're coming in, because you did a fabulous, fabulous job. That was a brilliant, brilliant speech, and just a great invitation to all of us, all of the nurses in Canada, to come with you on a very, very important journey to build a strong, strong Canadian Nurses Association for the future. So before adjourning the meeting, I'd like to thank the Chief Scrutineer, Lisa Little, an international nursing leader and a friend of CNA and a friend of ours. Thank you so much for being with us here today and for providing that steadfast leadership. To our parliamentarian, and I'm just going to make sure I get his name. I can't move my thing here. Atul Kapoor, thank you so much for your help in our run through earlier this week, and it was very reassuring to have you there with us. Thank you to Megan Wallace, our lawyer. Megan, you always make me feel confident and supported, and I know you're a tremendous supporter of the Canadian Nurses Association, so thank you for being there. Thanks to our technical crew. I know there is a crew out there, including Lumi Lumi, and it worked well. It worked really well. So we did it, and we did it virtually. And to the CNA staff for their time and their effort. And as I said before, just for all of the attention to the detail and the support. And you know, as president, and Tim, you'll find this, you can just lean into that and trust us. So that's a great gift from the CNA staff. And as always, we are grateful for your feedback about today's meeting. You will receive an email survey seeking your input. We would really appreciate if you could take a few minutes to complete that survey. Your input will be helpful to us in planning future annual meetings. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to see you all online. And on a personal note, I wish you all the very best. Please stay safe and stay well. And I know that our paths will cross again, and I will see you again. So thank you so much. And I will officially, the agenda has now been completed. There being no further business, the annual meeting of members of the Canadian Nurses Association 2020 is now adjourned. And I'll use my gavel. Thank you so much, and farewell, everybody. Thank you.
So are we going to stay on for a few minutes?
Sure.
You guys probably both need to have a breath.
Just waiting to
I'd
hear.
stay on for a few minutes.
We can close.